This is Sportsline.
Hey there, Titans Talk on your television. Steve Layman here with you. Glad you are here with us on this Tuesday night on NewsChannel 5 Plus. Titans, winners of 2 in a row. They went to Baltimore and won. They went to Indianapolis and won. And all of those questions people had 17 or 18 days ago about what had happened. 5-0 start. Now they've lost 3 of 4. Injuries are mounting. Where is this team going? Well, here they are. Back-to-back wins over very good teams. The Titans are now 8-3. They are a game up in the AFC South, and really they have a manageable road. Anything can happen in December. Obviously, you got to stay healthy. Obviously, you've got to continue to play well. But when you look at the schedule, the road is there for the Titans to win their first AFC South title since 2008. That would be huge news for this team. Obviously, it guarantees you a home playoff game. And while it doesn't appear that home playoff games will have quite the same level of buzz as they have forever before now because of the current state of the pandemic, the idea that a game would be here in Nashville, the idea that you'd have that to focus on, the idea that they'd be able to stay home and sleep in their own beds for that one is certainly something that you have to be excited about if you are a Titans fan right now. It has been a long time coming. 2008, the last time the Titans had a home playoff game, and there's the opportunity still to continue to battle for more and more home field advantage throughout the course of the playoffs. Obviously, better seeding. It looks like at the moment, the battle for the top spot is pretty much either the Steelers or the Chiefs, 2 teams that have a combined 1 loss between them. But you want to keep on going. The Titans have played well the last couple of weeks, and they want to continue that down the stretch of the season. Our phone lines are open tonight, 737-7767, the number. We will dive into all of the topics from Sunday's game in Indianapolis. We will look ahead a bit to another showdown this weekend. Battle of 2 8-3 teams, the Titans and the Browns, although they are 8-3 in different ways. And this isn't to shortchange Cleveland on what they've done this year. They are likely a playoff team the way they have played up to this point. But when you look at the Browns, outside of a win over the Colts early on in the season, the rest of the teams they have beaten are dreadful. Dreadful. The Titans in the last couple of weeks, with the wins over Baltimore and Indianapolis, have beaten teams with more wins this season, the 13 between them, than 6 of the Browns wins combined. That's how poor a lot of the teams Cleveland has faced so far this year. Doesn't mean they're not good. They run the ball very, very effectively. They're one of the best rushing teams in the league. They had over 200 yards on Sunday in Jacksonville against the Jaguars. Doesn't mean they don't have options, with Mayfield throwing to Landry and others. But that defense struggles. And frankly, at this point, it's just not really clear they have been tested a whole heck of a lot. But still, it's an 8-3 football team, and when you win games in the National Football League against anybody, it says that you're doing something right, and at some point when you win enough of them, the belief just starts to be there that you're going to figure out how to win each time you step on the field. So the Titans are going to have to combat that as they take on the Browns on Sunday. Noon kickoff at Nissan Stadium. Roughly about 14,000 people will be in attendance, and of course, if you are not lucky enough to be in that select few, you can watch it over on NewsChannel 5. Again, our phone lines are open tonight, 737-7767. Your thoughts on that matchup, your thoughts on what you saw on Sunday in Indianapolis, and frankly, what you've seen the last couple of weeks of this Titans team. How good do you feel about where they are positioned right now? And all those questions you had a couple of weeks ago, after that Thursday night loss to the Colts, in which they had dropped 3 of their last 4 games after the 5-0 start. Are all those questions erased now? Do you feel better in that regard? Or do some of those questions still linger for you? Call us up. Let's get into some of those questions. Let's get into some of those topics here on the program tonight. I was impressed on Sunday for this reason. After losing to the Colts a couple weeks before, you knew that the motivation was not going to be a factor. But these two teams don't like each other. And you want to come out and be able to hit somebody in the mouth early and often in this rivalry. But for the Titans to go into a building where they have not had much success over the years. They did win there last year, but that was just the second time they had ever won at Lucas Oil Stadium. To go into a building that you've not had much success at against a team that just beat you 34-17 17 days earlier. And to get into what was kind of a shootout in the first quarter plus. Titans went down the field, Colts came down the field, and back and forth, and it was 14-14. To be in that position and to just kind of stick with it and then insert your will and your dominance on the Colts in the second quarter of the game to totally take over, that to me was one of the most impressive things I've seen in the NFL this year. Derrick Henry started running downhill behind that offensive line. And by the way, this isn't the offensive line that started the season. Heck, it's not even the offensive line that played the Colts 2 weeks ago. You had David Quessenberry in at left tackle, making his first NFL start. Because obviously Taylor Lewan's out for the season, and so too is Ty Sambrailo now. You get Roger Saffold back at left guard. Obviously, you got Ben Jones up front. You got Nate Davis at right guard. Dennis Kelly at right tackle. You put that offensive line out there up against the Colts defense that was third in the league against the run coming into the day, and you just pound them over and over. To me, that was one of the most impressive things that I have seen. The Titans also knew what they needed to do. DeForest Buckner was out. He tested positive for COVID last week. So you take him away from that defense, and it definitely changes things for the Colts. And so what did the Titans do? They went right after the middle of that line. They handed the ball off to 22, Derrick Henry, over and over again, and King Henry exerted his power, his toughness, and his dominance on the football game. 27 carries, 178 yards, 3 touchdowns on the day. And he was absolutely dominant in that second quarter. And then once the Titans got the lead, nice complimentary football from the defense in there. You get up 21-14, you get a 3 and out. You get up 28-14, you get another stop. The defense did its part in this stretch as well. The Titans have played their best complimentary football over the last couple of weeks. But then the other thing is right there before halftime. Titans were trying to take off clock. They wanted to get a little more points as well if they could. And they found themselves at 4th and 4 at the 38-yard line. And Mike Vrabel sends out the punt team. And then he thinks better of it. Calls timeout, takes them off the field, and he puts the offense back out there. Showing faith, not just in his offense that they could get it, but that if they don't get it, that his defense would step up there with 30 seconds left in the half and not give Indianapolis anything, even though they would have had the ball at the 40-yard line. I thought that said something, that Mike Vrabel was willing to show that level of faith in his team. And what do? They reward him. 37-yard pass from Tannehill to Corey Davis. Got it all the way down to the 1. A couple plays later, Tannehill walked in for a touchdown. And it was 35-14 at the half. And in essence, the game was over. The Titans did a good job of finishing against a Colts team that has been a second-half team. But let's face it, when you're a good team in the NFL and you go up by 21 at the half, you're going to win almost every game. And so that stretch in the second quarter where Derrick Henry and the offensive line took over, the defense did its job, and then the gamble by Mike Vrabel showing the faith to his team that regardless of the ups and downs of some of the recent weeks, he believed that they would get the job done. And if they didn't, the defense would bail them out. And the offense goes out and gets it done. And it's a 35-14 lead. To me, that stretch not only won the game, but I think it sets this Titans team up very well down the stretch. Because through all those ups and downs over the last, 5-6 weeks, even coming out of the COVID saga that they had. I mean, remember early on this season, the Titans were winning games. Yes, they were. In a 5-0 start, they were winning every game. But they weren't always pretty. I mean, the offense struggled in Denver. The special teams definitely struggled, but they figured out how to pull it out. They had to win a shootout against Jacksonville, and the same thing in Minnesota. They came out miraculously against Buffalo and ran them off the field after the COVID shutdown. But then they had to go to overtime against the Texans. They were winning games, but they weren't always pretty, and they certainly were not flawless. Then you go into that stretch where things really got ugly for a bit, and you wondered where this team would go. Well, the last 2 weeks, this team has put forth its best efforts of the year and its most complete efforts of the season. Offense, defense, and special teams playing complementary football together, just like Vrabel always talks about. And that's how you beat the Ravens in Baltimore and the Colts in Indianapolis in back-to-back weeks. And I think those performances and the faith that Mike Vrabel showed his team with that call at the end of the half on Sunday in Indy gives them a ton of faith now heading into this game against Cleveland and heading into this final month of the season where, again, the Titans are in position to do something that hasn't been done around here in a long, long time, and that is win the AFC South and get a home playoff game. And that was the goal at the beginning of the season. They have bigger goals than that once the postseason begins, and as we saw last year, this team believes if you just get there, you can win. But boy, isn't it easier if you have the opportunity to play at home, if you don't have to travel every week, if you can avoid really cold conditions or bad weather if possible, which hopefully you can do here in Nashville in January. All of that is why the goal was to win the AFC South and get a home playoff game. And the Titans have put themselves in a position to do that. They have been a strong closing team the last 2 years under Mike Vrabel. 2 years ago, they nearly got themselves into the playoffs, battling hard in December. Last year, they got themselves into the playoffs, battling hard in December, and then Derrick Henry running all over the Texans in that final game of the season in Houston. This year, they entered December as the team being hunted. They're not the hunters now. They're being hunted. Can they finish strong again? That is going to be the key. But they have put themselves in the position now to do something that hasn't been done here for quite some time. And that is something to be pleased about if you are a Titans fan. 737-7767, the number. We want to hear from you tonight. And let's begin with Kevin. Kevin, how are you? Welcome to Titans Talk.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. What's going on?
Hey, Tennessee Titans had three quarterbacks. We went to the playoff and in the Super Bowl, and we fell short. Last year, the Rams beat us short, and I know the coaches and defense and the staff and the leaders and the fans, and we got a good team. We got to keep on pushing. And the team in the fourth quarter, third quarter, we need not to give up. We need to have compassion and fight and win, and we need to have leaders like compassion and fight and win. And
you there, Kevin?
Yeah.
Yeah, keep going, please.
And we can't give up in the fourth quarter. We can't miss field goals.
Yeah, there's no question about that. Kevin, we appreciate the call. Look, the Titans have been a team that under Mike Vrabel have finished strong. I just mentioned what they did in December, but finished strong in games as well. And this season, including that win in Baltimore a couple of weeks ago, think of all the ways the Titans have finished down the stretch. Final minute field goal in Denver in week 1. Fourth quarter game-winning field goal in week 2 against Jacksonville. Final 2-minute field goal against the Vikings in Minnesota in week 3. Overtime walk-off touchdown by Derrick Henry against the Texans to go to 5-0. That's 4 of their first 5 games that they won in the final 2 minutes or overtime. And then you go to Baltimore, and Henry walks off with another winner there. The Titans have 5 wins this season of their 8 that have come down to the wire of regulation or gone into overtime, and they were able to win. There are things you can pick apart with this team. The defense, you can pick apart how the special teams have faltered at times. You can even talk about the lull in the middle of the season for the offense. But what you cannot fault with this team is its ability to finish and its belief in one another, that when the chips are down at the end of the game, no matter how bad it has been, that the Titans believe that they can come back and win the game. That is a huge thing to have as you head down to the stretch and as you get set for the postseason, which, by the way, as it stands right now, the Titans want to win the division. But that win on Sunday, and where the Titans currently stand in the AFC, has them at a 98.5% chance to make the playoffs, given where they are right now. It's pretty good as you head into December with still 5 games to play. Go to line 1, say what's up to Scott. Scott, good evening and welcome to Titans Talk.
Hey, thanks, bud. How's it going?
Good. Thanks for the call.
So, yeah, I was just excited to talk about the last couple of wins, how our secondary's coming together, how our offense just keeps on, running Derrick Henry. Hopefully we'll get Adam Humphries back. Hopefully we'll get Adoree Jackson back to just solidify some different positions. And Quisenberry, I mean, how he stepped up and how amazing that was, being a third string left tackle, how well he's playing. So it's all positive stuff. It's all good things, here in Tennessee. I can't say the same for my brother's team down there in Jacksonville, but, I just tell them to jump on that Tennessee bandwagon. We'll let them on for the rest of the year.
Yeah, but, he needs to do that if he wants a winner this season.
Exactly. So that's all I got to say, man. So tighten up, baby.
All right, Scott. Thank you.
Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah, thanks for the call. It's a good point. And I think when you look at the defense, Scott, the struggles have been well publicized throughout the year. And even Sunday, they gave up 26 points. That's not great. But when you have a good offense, you can play that way at times. But what this defense has been really good at is forcing turnovers. They got 1 and nearly 2 more on Sunday against Indianapolis. And the other thing I think you have to give credit, while I have been critical and many people have been critical of Mike Vrabel and this defense this year, the idea that he didn't replace Dean Pease with a new defensive coordinator and he kept it all in-house, Shane Bowen's calling the plays, the idea that that's the way they went, and then the way this defense has looked with no Jarrell Casey and no Logan Ryan and Jadeveon Clowney struggling and Vic Beasley not even here anymore, there has been a lot of criticism there, and I think that is all rightfully thrown out there at the direction of Mike Vrabel and the Titans. But one thing I think you have to give him credit for, and the whole staff, when you look at this Titans team over his entire tenure, but specifically last year and this year, on the defensive side of the ball, guys individually have gotten much better as the season moves along. And I think to last year at the beginning of the year, I think when you looked at the Titans roster a year ago, you thought, there's some talent here. And on defense, there's some real talent here. But if they get behind a Logan Ryan or an Adoree Jackson or a Malcolm Butler in the secondary, and you have to go to that next line, where's the depth? Who are these guys? And can they help them at all? They better not suffer injuries. And You saw Malcolm Butler go out for the rest of the season last year. Dory struggled through a couple injuries. And what happened? LaShawn Sims came in. Ty Smith came in. Guys stepped up in that secondary last year and played key roles for this team into the postseason as they got all the way to the AFC Championship. So much so that LaShawn Sims got a contract elsewhere this season. And you've seen other guys be in that spot. Well, what have we seen over the last couple of weeks with Adoree Jackson still out? Breon Borders stepping in. Desmond King coming in via that trade, which was a really good move by John Robinson. He's been an active member of that secondary. So credit to the coaching staff, credit to Robinson for not sort of sitting on their heels when things were going awry early in the season. They made a couple roster moves. They tried to fix the personnel, but they've also just coached some of these guys up. Breon Borders has been there all year, really, mostly on the practice squad. Well, now he's starting. And he had an interception on Sunday, and he has been a legitimate force for this team. He had 9 tackles against the Bears just a couple of weeks ago in his debut. Those guys have stepped up. They've played better football, and as a result, the defense has played a little bit better football. Yes, there were 26 points allowed, but this defense that was on a historically bad pace on third downs earlier this season, not so bad as of late. And the Colts were just 5 of 13 on Sunday. The defense is playing better. They can continue that throughout the course of the season. The Titans are going to be in a much better way. Let's say hello to Irving. Irving, how are you?
All righty.
Go ahead.
Hello?
Yeah, you're on the air. Go ahead.
I was just saying that, well, number one, we always have had a hell of a defense. And I think that if Tannehill just passed the ball around a little more, and then mostly like when it come down to Henry, they know when they get down in that third and fourth second that they're gonna pass it to Henry. And I have the confidence, and I know that Henry just needs to pass the ball down, make his wide receivers go out, and make them do what they get paid for. And then when they think that they're gonna throw the ball, that's when they can shift it to Henry. Because I think we're gonna be a force to be dealt with this year.
Okay, Irvin, we appreciate that. Good thoughts there. Look, Derrick Henry has more rushing yards than 20 teams in the NFL do right now. That's how much the Titans have used him, and that's how effective he has been. They've built the passing game off of that, the play-action game and all that stuff, and it has been very, very effective. I think one of the things you're excited about as a Titans fan watching this team is how much, now that they're both on the field, because A.J. Brown had the knee issue early on, you had Corey Davis test positive for COVID-19. He missed a couple of games because of that. Now that they're both on the field together, they have worked really well hand in hand over the past few weeks. They're showing a great rapport with Ryan Tannehill, and the offense in the passing game is clicking. And think about that. With those guys going off, there hasn't been as much Jonnu Smith lately. So you still have that angle to the offense that can come back and be a huge factor for you. And hopefully one of these days, as we just heard the caller a moment ago say, hopefully Adam Humphries will get back into the mix, because he is a guy that is great in possession. He's great at moving the chains and picking up first downs, and he's a perfect complement to Davis and to Brown and what those guys can do. So I think there is more to be gained in the passing game, but right now this team is working very well hand in hand together, and you can't fault the balance from Sunday. On Sunday in Indianapolis, the Titans ran for 229 yards. They threw for 220 yards while putting up 45 points, and in the first half they were even better. It was 173 in the first half of that game. Perfect balance. I mean, hey, that's what you want to be, right? Some teams are great at passing, some teams are great at running. But if you can be good at both and be balanced at both, that is the ideal situation the coaches always talk about. The Titans were on Sunday in Indy, and that is why they ran away with that game and now have control back in the AFC South. Phone lines are open, 737-7767. We would love to hear from you. talk more about that Titans win in Indianapolis and where they stand right now from 5-0 to 6-3, now 8-3 and a game up in the division as they head into the final month of the season. We'll be back. This is Titans Talk on NewsChannel 5+.